There is a family living in London right now whose house, just one house, is worth $500 million. Not their company, not their portfolio, their house. A single residential property, sitting quietly on Carlton House Terrace, a street so close to Buckingham Palace. You can hear the changing of the guard from the living room window. This same family has topped the Sunday Times Rich list, Britain's definitive annual ranking of the wealthiest people in the country. Their fortune in 2025 stands at £35.3 billion. They employ over 200,000 people across 48 countries. They own one of India's largest truck manufacturers. They own Gulf Oil. They own banks in Switzerland and India. They have had prime ministers at their dinner table, and a cabinet minister resigned from the British government because of their passport applications. And most of the world, most of Britain, most of India, most of America, has never heard their name once. Not once. This is the story of the Hinduja family, the most powerful business dynasty nobody ever talks about, and the 111-year empire they built, starting from a 14-year-old boy's first trade deal in Bombay. The story does not start in London. It does not start in a boardroom or a bank. It starts in Shikarpur, a city in the Sindh district of what is now Pakistan, known historically as the Paris of Sindh. A merchant city positioned at the crossroads of caravan routes between South Asia and Central Asia, where trading families had been building fortunes across centuries. The kind of place that produced men who understood from childhood that commerce was not just a career. It was a way of seeing the world. Parmanan Deepchand Hinduja was born there in 1900. He lost his father at 9 years old, a loss that pushed him into the family trade before most children his age had learned to read a balance sheet. In 1914, at 14, he moved to Bombay. He spent years immersed in the import-export markets of one of the busiest trading ports in the world, learning how goods moved between nations and how a young man with no capital but sharp instincts could position himself at the center of a transaction. In 1919, he opened the first international office in Iran. Merchant banking and trade were the foundation. He moved to Tehran and spent the next 5 decades building trading routes between India and Persia that would eventually become the backbone of one of the largest private conglomerates on earth. His operating philosophy came from Vedic principles and was condensed into one sentence that the family still quotes today: "My dharma is to work so that I can give." He founded the P.D. Hinduja National Hospital in Mumbai in 1951, providing affordable healthcare to ordinary Indians while running an international trading empire from Tehran. He died in 1971, leaving 4 sons, a hospital, a philosophy, and a business that was about to face the most severe test of its existence. The revolution, the pivot that changed everything. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution overthrew the Iranian government. The Hinduja Group's headquarters had been in Tehran for 60 years. Not a gradual relocation, not a planned strategic exit, an emergency. Everything the founder had spent his life building, the trade routes, the banking relationships, the physical presence, suddenly sitting inside a country that had become hostile to foreign business overnight. The 4 brothers divided the world between them. Shrichand and Gopichand moved to London. Prakash took Geneva. Ashok managed India. 4 brothers, 4 cities, 1 balance sheet. They were guided by the values their father had drilled into them from childhood. Work to give, and word is a bond. And by a family motto that would become one of the most quoted statements in Indian business history: "Everything belongs to everyone, and nothing belongs to anyone." No formal division of assets, no internal competition for ownership. The empire was shared, not split. London was the right call. Britain in 1979 had the legal infrastructure, the banking relationships, and the global connectivity that serious trading capital needed. The Hindujas arrived with 60 years of documented trading history, relationships across the Middle East and South Asia that no British firm could replicate, and a reputation for honoring their word that, in that era, was worth more than any credit line a bank could offer. The 1980s chapter is the one most business schools have never written a case study about. In 1987, they acquired Ashok Leyland, part of the collapsed British Leyland Automotive Group. British Leyland had been a national embarrassment for over a decade. Most investors looked at the Leyland assets and saw a liability. The Hindujas looked at the same assets, looked at India's commercial vehicle market, looked at the infrastructure needs of a country with 800 million people and almost no modern transportation backbone, and saw the opposite. They acquired it, restructured it, and built it into the second largest commercial truck manufacturer in India and one of the 10 largest bus manufacturers in the world. They also acquired Gulf Oil from Chevron. Not glamorous, not a Silicon Valley disruption bet. A fundamental commodity business bought at the right price, held with patience, and compounded over decades. In the 1990s, they established banks in Switzerland and India. In 2012, they acquired Houghton International, the world's largest metal fluids manufacturer, for $1.045 billion. A company that makes the industrial lubricants used in every automobile, aircraft, and piece of precision engineering produced on Earth. Nobody writes magazine covers about metal fluids. The Hindujas bought the world's largest producer of them for over $1 billion and kept moving. In May 2025, the Hinduja family topped the Sunday Times Rich list for the fourth consecutive year with a net worth of £35.3 billion. It is larger than the GDP of over 50 countries. It is a fortune built not on a single product, not on one stock market, not on one country, but across 11 sectors, 48 countries, and over a century of uninterrupted operation. Everyone generating revenue. Everyone feeding the family's capacity to acquire, hold, and compound further. They did not diversify because they were afraid of concentration risk. They diversified because they had already learned, in Iran, in 1979, what happens when an empire exists in only one place. The Carlton House Terrace home was valued at $500 million by Forbes, the third most expensive private residence in the world at the time of the valuation. The family motto is, "Everything belongs to everyone." The house where that motto is lived out is worth $500 million. For 50 years, the four brothers operated as a single decision-making unit. Richest as the eldest and primary shareholder, Gopichand co-chairing from London, Prakash in Geneva, Ashok in Mumbai. The shared ownership philosophy, no separate balance sheets, no internal competition, was the structural genius that kept £35 billion intact across generations. Then the losses began. Richest Hinduja died in May 2023 at 87. Gopichand, known to the business world simply as GP, died in London on November 4th, 2025. With both elder brothers gone, the empire entered its most uncertain chapter. The succession question, publicly framed as settled by the family's shared philosophy, is in reality far more complicated. The dynasty has been described by journalists who cover it as riven by a decade-long feud over how power, control, and money should pass from one generation to the next. The next generation, Sanjay, Dheeraj, and their cousins, now carry the weight of a 111-year empire on their shoulders. What they do with it will determine whether the Hinduja group enters its second century as strong as it entered its first. There is a precise reason the Hinduja family does not appear in the conversations most people have about extraordinary wealth. It is not because the wealth is modest. £35 billion is not modest by any definition the English language contains. It is because this family made a deliberate, generational decision to operate the way their father taught them to operate, with discipline, with discretion, and with an absolute conviction that the work itself was the only point that mattered. Gopichan Hinduja's personal motto, repeated across decades of interviews and internal meetings, was, "My duty is to work. The results are with God." That philosophy does not generate magazine cover requests. It does not create personal brands. It does not produce viral moments. What it produces, what it has produced across 4 generations and 111 years, is 35 billion pounds, and an empire that has survived a revolution, a partition, government investigations on 3 continents, and the deaths of its 2 most senior leaders in consecutive years. Parmanand Hinduja left Shikarpur at 14 with nothing except the instinct to find where value was being created and the patience to stay in the room long enough to capture it. His sons took that instinct to London, Geneva, and Mumbai and turned it into the largest private fortune in Britain. Their grandchildren are now deciding what the next chapter looks like. And most of the world is only just learning their name. That is not a failure of ambition. That is the architecture of a family that understood from the very beginning that the loudest empires are almost never the longest lasting ones. Subscribe right now. The next profile on this channel hits just as hard. Drop a comment below. Did you know this name before today?